China is empty. China lost half its population. The government has been secretly lying about its population. You've probably heard China has 1.4 billion people. I mean, that's what all the stats tell us. But there's so many reasons that China doesn't actually have 1.4 billion people. And China is lying about its population, and it all makes a lot of sense. There are rumors right now that China not only doesn't have 1.4 billion people, but they actually only have 300 to 400 million people. That's a loss of 1 billion human lives. I'm sure you've had to deal with spam calls and text messages and spam in your actual mailbox. Do you know where all this stuff's coming from? It's actually more sinister than just getting annoyed. This stuff is coming from people called data brokers. People that take your information, everything about you, your social security number, your name, your address, your age, and they sell it on the black market. What happens after your data gets sold? Well, a bunch of companies will take your information and sell it to advertisers to waste your time and potentially steal your identity. That's why I love Incogni. If you were to go out by yourself and go find all these data brokers, it would take you a countless amount of time. But Incogni goes and does the dirty work for you. They contact these data brokers and they tell them that they need to legally stop. After I used Incogni, I saw that my spam was greatly reduced and I knew that my identity was safe. If you're sick and tired of getting harassed by data brokers, getting junk mail, and you want to stop people and companies finding everything about you, or worse, go to incogni.com/cmilk and use the code CMILK to get 60% off. Protect your privacy today with Incogni. This is something that has been flooding my inbox, my comments section, even in real life conversations, not even joking, with friends and neighbors and family members. In fact, I took notice when fans from other YouTube channels, or potentially bots, absolutely blasted my live streams with comments about how China only has 300 million people now, and to go to subscribe to said channel here. My audience started getting annoyed, and it seemed like every other message in the chat was promoting this certain YouTube channel and this message about China's population. First of all, number one netiquette rule, no self-promotion, please. Anyway, are we just making shit up now because we wanted to serve the narrative? I know that there are huge voices on the internet in the conspiracy sphere and even within the anti-CCP influencer sphere that are pushing this absolutely insane idea that China has a smaller population than the USA. That's just outlandish. Somehow, China lost 1 billion people to COVID and a mixture of other things that they're saying, and we're supposed to believe that? Do you know what 1 billion people even looks like? Are we just gonna sit here and agree with the idea that 1 billion people just pieced out, they vanished, they ceased to exist, or they were never there in the first place? Are we now living in a post-truth world? The truth is, China is lying about its population, but by how much? Well, there was a census data leak in 2022 that showed that the population was about 1.29 billion, about 110 million people short of their claim. But actually, that's not accurate either, because of the sheer level of corruption at play here. There are tons of different studies and models and way to skin a cat with this one, but instead of looking too deeply, let's look at a range of realistic figures that experts have concluded. All sources are down below, by the way. In reality, China probably has between 1 and 1.3 billion people. Now, when you look at this figure, it doesn't seem that far off from 1.4 billion, but that's because we are simplifying it to single digits. Let's use a different perspective. China is underreporting their population by between 100 million and 400 million people. For scale, China is lying about its population on the bottom end to the scale of all of Japan's population, and all the way up to the top estimate, the population of the USA. A middle estimate would be that China's lying about its population to the scale of Russia and Japan together. Imagine being so inaccurate about your population data that conservatively, you actually don't have the equivalent of Japan that even exists in your country. Missing 100 to 400 million people is absolutely massive. But why would you lie about that? Well, for those of you that are fans of top-down big government systems, let me show you why it doesn't usually work. You have a situation in China that has local governments of provinces and cities and towns and villages that just sit and wait for money from the central government. They can't do anything without it. The central government picks who gets the money based on corrupt bribery and kickbacks and loyalty and other dictatorship tropes, but also based on population. If you're in a country like China that is relatively poor, you need as much money for your area as possible. And if you're a country like China, that means you need as much money as possible because you are a corrupt local leader that needs a new Mercedes-Benz for your sixth mistress. Anyway, that means it's imperative that you, as a Chinese leader, tells the central government that you have a lot of people. For example, let's say you run a census on your local village and it turns out there's 28,000 people there. Maybe the law says that if you have 30,000 people, you might qualify for a bigger tier of government money. So you tell the central government that you actually have 30,000 people. Now that might not be a massive issue when you look at one village, but I need you to multiply this by thousands and thousands of towns, villages, and cities across China, and wow, that's a lot of people missing. The central government also has massive incentives to lie about its population on the world stage as well. Being the most populous nation in the world gets you not only bragging rights, but also different statuses in global organizations. It gives you more sway and power in everything you can imagine. If you're participating in a climate change goal, all of a sudden, your per capita output of CO2 is lower than reality because you're telling people that you have 1.4 billion people, when in reality, it's probably lower by 100 to 400 million people. Apply this logic to any international organization where China wants to call the shots, and you have yourself a massive incentive to lie. China flubs the numbers from top to bottom. For example, China claims it had a baby boom in 2016. But when you compare to the amount of kids that went to school that should be in school that were born in that year, it doesn't add up. Another example, China claims to have only lost 83,000 people to COVID, the country it came from. That's just insane. In fact, Chinese studies themselves have proven that blatantly wrong, inadvertently. By most models, the range of deaths should have been between 1 and 8 million people. That's a huge range, but the sheer audacity of China to claim 83,000 is just insulting to the victims. In fact, it was very easy to prove that the COVID deaths were wrong with simple internet search results. Looking at Baidu, China's Google, you look at the searches for funeral urns and funeral preparations, and then you compare them to the baseline searches of the same terms from previous years, and you also compare it to the baseline death numbers at the same time, and you got yourself some fresh, hot truth that no one can deny. You don't search en masse for funeral urns when no one has died, unless you're some sort of like weird death aficionado equivalent of a Pokemon card collector or something, I don't know. Anyway, you mix all these things and you mix all these methods of hiding population discrepancies together, and you're looking at a huge problem. The problem is that China can lie all it wants, but the future of China is grim. It's got one of the lowest birth rates in the world, the economy's in the toilet, and they have hundreds of millions of old people that need taken care of by future children that simply don't exist. Because China has little to no social programs to take care of people, despite being communist. So listen, the argument I keep hearing about China missing lots of people is probably true, but it's not missing 1 billion people. Now, I maintain that the greatest enemy to civilization as it stands is the Chinese government, but we have to approach things with evidence. We have to approach things with logic and reason. Does the Chinese government lie about almost everything? Yes, and we shouldn't be like them. Did the Chinese government unleash a horrific virus on the world through error, killing millions, covering it up, and then blame it on other countries? Yes, they did. Is China hacking US critical infrastructure, paying billions to sow dissent and chaos in America? Yes, they are. Is China teaching its citizens right now to brazenly hate the USA and prepare for an invasion of a sovereign and free country? Yes, it is. Did China imprison and re-educate millions of minority citizens in Western China in concentration camps just recently? Yes, they did. But that doesn't mean you should make things up. Making things up like China lost 1 billion people cheapens the argument and makes it hard to push back on this very persuasive and evil force that we have to deal with, that is the Chinese government. That's what they do. They lie, they cheat, they deceive to further their own corrupt and twisted goals. When you don't research things or attribute things wrongly or just blatantly lie about China, you end up confusing people who are putting their trust in your message. I hope there are some more credible voices that will be able to rise through this sensationalist trash heap that we seem to be living in today. Peace. If you guys like this video, you're gonna love The China Show, my weekly show where I fill you in with Serpent ZA, my partner, on everything that's happening in China. News related, viral related, everything in between, the funny, the bad, it's all there. Make sure you subscribe to The China Show. And don't forget, if you want to support my work, the best way to do it is to go over and check out my secret show, and that's called Xiaban Ho, After Hours. That's where Winston and I cover things that we can't normally cover on YouTube that are happening in China. We cover huge topics, we cover hilarious topics, it's interactive, it's fun. There's over 100 episodes available to you right now, and every Monday has a new episode going forward. Today's kind of like if an entire episode, and you guys should be hyped for this, an entire episode was vote clips.
Something like that.
Pretty much.
Oh, yes. It's a blind person massage. He's hopping on the cast's leg. Yeah. I remember going in school to one of those, and then they let you ride the ostrich around. I'm just wondering how he's breathing right now.
Yeah, wait a minute. Chain-shaped King Kong.
Yes, chain-shaped King Kong.
Like police brutality, all this kind of stuff, right? Where are people sharing this when people bring up police brutality or ACAB and all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's these clips?
Yeah.
It is the greatest ammunition you could ever use against CCP apologists of all time.
Yes.
So go to patreon.com/ADVpodcasts to make sure you support us over there and get access to our secret show. It's half price right now. So make sure you go over there and check it out. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.